Welcome everybody to the second class of Atma Bodha. Here, Shankaracharya will step into high gear and discuss some of the most subtle and profound aspects of Vedanta. As usual, we would like to acknowledge Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati, whose discourses we are studying for the traditional rendering of Vedanta as it was done for over 1,000 years, starting with Adi Shankaracharya. We'll say a small prayer. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Salutations to the lineage starting with Lord Sadashiva, with Adi Shankaracharya in the middle and continuing up to our immediate teacher, Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati. Okay, so we are in the first portion where we studied so the qualifications for the practice, ignorance, the role of ignorance, and the purpose of the practice. So we covered 4 verses. Now Shankaracharya is going to tell what it feels like when you are enlightened. So so far we've seen Shankaracharya talks about the problem of ignorance. He talked about the mind, and from one point of view you need the mind to understand this Atma, but at the same time the Atma is self-revealing, like a mirror in a dark room. You can't use the sun illuminates the dark room, so you move the mind is like a movable mirror. The Atma is like the sun, and you kind of move the mirror to shed light on different things, various portions of the mind. But can you use that mirror to illumine the Atma itself? No, that's the analogy that's given. So you need the mind to remove the ignorance and to set the stage. But once the stage is set, the Atma is self-revealing, it's self-effulgent. That's what we saw. Now, in this verse, अज्ञानकलुषं जीवं ज्ञानाभ्यासाद् विनिर्मलं कृत्वा ज्ञानं स्वयं नश्येत् जलं कथकरेणुवत्. Okay, so this is a beautiful simile. So it talks about this knowledge. By constant practice of this knowledge, the self stained by, here the self refers to the Jivatma. It's stained, I'll tell you what the Jivatma is. Stained by ignorance is purified of impurities. Okay. Ajnana kalusham jivam. The jiva, so you will see some of these words. The jiva just refers to us, the individual. So they also call it the Jivatma. Jiva, Jivatma, all these words you will see. And then we saw this in the mind, that so when the Jivatma, and then there's a Paramatma, the same consciousness reflecting of our little mind is called the Jivatma, and the consciousness reflecting of the entire universe is called the Paramatma. So the Jivatma refers to the individual. So we saw this, the Jivatma individual. When the Atma is reflected on a small reflecting medium, everything looks small, we feel narrow, small. It is the Jivatma. But it's the same consciousness. When it's reflecting of the entire universe, everything is in a grand scale. So that is what's called God or the Paramatma. Okay, so we saw this. Now, Ajnana kalusham jivan. This jiva is stained by ignorance. Ajnana is ignorance. Jnana abhyasat vinirmalam. Due to the constant practice of knowledge, it is purified of impurities. Malam is impurities. Vinirmalam means it's purified of impurities. Kritva jnanam swayam nashyat. And having done so, cleansed so, then knowledge disappears itself. Kritva Jnanat Swayam Nashet. It is like self, what can eject or self eradication. So there are certain, in the army, you'll see there, when there's a certain vehicle, it automatically, robot, it goes, does its job and self destructs. Like that, the knowledge just disappears itself. As in the example that's given is like the powder of kataka nut that settles down after it has cleansed dirty water. So this is what it is. So nowadays people, even when the people go camping, they use this charcoal. What it does is it clings on to all the dirt and it settles at the bottom. Then from the top you take the water. So like that, this knowledge, it removes all the impurities and then it's gone from the system. So the example that um, this example is used to illustrate a very important, it's a brilliant example, and this is how they cleanse the water in the olden days. It illustrates an important concept called vrittik jnana. So there is all this theory. You need the theory. Final, for example, when they teach you how to swim, they say, okay, do this, all that. Then when you start swimming, do you say, oh, I have to do that, this order, and or when you go to the gym and you lift weights, they teach you, oh, do it this way. But once you know this, it's in your system. You don't think like that. Shankaracharya says this knowledge, it just goes out. You feel it, then you feel you are that infinite self. Okay, that is how it feels. So this vritti refers to the mind's modification. Constantly our mind is changing, right? There is these thoughts, all these patterns, that is called vritti. That's why Patanjali gives the definition of yoga as chitta vritti nirodha. There is cessation of all these fluctuations of the mind. So what happens after this realization that you are this consciousness, the mental operation of knowing, Vrittignana, that's called, it is a function of the intellect. So Vedanta is extremely scientific. Everything, it's allocated, it compartmentalized. So this Vrittignanam, this whole thing that we are doing now to understand, oh, I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, because anything which is the object is not you. You are, when you calmly sit, you're able to see the thoughts in your mind come up and go. So you're not the mind. So, but the mind, one of the portions of the mind, as we saw, is the intellect. So all this mental operations that you're doing, analyzing to see who I am, this is a function of the intellect. And the subject object duality, knower versus known, that disappears after realization. And what remains? One abides as Brahman, that infinite consciousness, effortlessly just being without any mental activity. So it does not mean the truth is forgotten. Self-realization, it is said, is not an act of knowing something new. It is the cessation of the false notion that you are something else. Okay, so after realization, there's no need to retain a concept like, oh, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. You don't have to say that. It becomes, you become just so natural, you know that it is so true. Okay, in the Yoga Sutras, that's why in the third sutra, it says, after Yogaschitta Vritti Nirodha, Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Pastanam, then the seer resides in its own true nature. Okay, so is this point understood, everybody? So would you like me to tell a small story to illustrate this point? Yeah, yes, anybody? Yeah, okay. So I have not usually in the classes I tell a lot of stories. This one is packed, so I did not allocate a lot of time for stories, but I will kind of slip a few more minutes after the class to complete. So you have to excuse me for that. I will tell the story. In the Mahabharata, so Mahabharata is considered to be the world's, a lot of people consider it to be the world's greatest epic. And is definitely the longest, consisting of 100,000 verses. And it is said that whatever is found in Mahabharata, it can be found elsewhere. Yat iha tat anyatra, yat na iha asti tat na kvachit. What is not found in Mahabharata, you cannot find anywhere in the world. The most noblest of human endeavors to the lowliest of human endeavors, everything you find in Mahabharata. It is that greatest epic. And in the Mahabharata, there are 5 gems, Pancharatnas. One of the gems is Bhagavad Gita. So that is Mahabharata. And in Mahabharata, there is a prince called Karna. How he was born was that there was a great rishi called Durvasa. And probably you would have heard the asana called Durvasana. I'm sure Kyongwa does that. Durvasana. So Durvasa, and this is a rishi, a sage who was known for his anger. So last time Mimi asked a question, how sometimes I see the anger as a neutral third party, and this is how he wielded anger. He would use the anger to get what he wanted. He was an enlightened sage, but everybody was scared of him because sometimes he realized that people did not respect him because of his appearance and all that. So he learned to use his anger, and he was generous at giving curses. He would curse people. He would left, right, center. He would give curses. And these curses, because of his power of tapas, these curses would become effective. So everybody was terrified. And this little girl, a teenage girl, she was a princess. She served him. She didn't know about all this. She was just very sweet girl. Her name was Pritha. And she served him when he came to the palace and took care of him, gave him all the food and everything. He was very pleased. So he gave her 4 boons. And he said, with these boons, you can think of any of the celestials, the gods in the heavens, and you can have a child just like them. You can pray to the celestials and ask for a child just having their powers. So this is, she's like a little girl, teenage girl. She doesn't know. So then she goes up out, I have this cool thing. And she goes and looks at the sun. The first thing she says, one day I'd like to have a son like you. And immediately a baby was born. In her hand, there was this baby. This was like an effulgent baby. It came with a armor, on the golden armor on its body, and it had earrings, all that. Beautiful baby. She was so scared. What did she do? She takes a basket, puts the baby, and throws the baby in, puts the baby in the river. So the basket slides in the river, and there was a charioteer. The charioteer, he was washing his horses, and he finds this. And they'd been a charioteer and his wife. Her wife's name is Radha. They'd been praying to God for a long time to have a baby, and it was heaven sent. So baby comes, beautiful baby, and he takes it home to his wife. Wife was delighted, so they bring up this child. And this child, even though the child was born in a charioteer, not as high a birth as a king, the child had he was very good at weapons, archery, everything. And finally the prince finds this out, and he makes him like a small king, and he gives him kingdom and all that. But deep inside this guy, he had a lack. This lack, I am not a king. And others, the Pandavas in the story, they kind of belittle him. You're just a charioteer. Don't pretend to be a king. So this kind of rubbed on him. So always there was this lack. I want to be like a king. I want to be like a king. Like that, we want to, even during this effort, we say, okay, I know I'm something bigger. I want to feel my big self, my a permanent self. I don't want to feel that I'm the body. The scriptures say I'm not the body, I'm the mind, but I'm something supreme and eternal. So um, that's exactly how it is. So this guy, Karna, was his name. He he knew some deep inside that he was born, it's like a king, but he was born, he always thought he was a charioteer's son. So he was feeling lowly. Then one day, before this great war that took place, um, his mother, Pritha, who is also called Kunti, comes to him and says, "Look, this is what happened. I am your mother. You fight with your brothers. Don't fight for the evil king," she asks him. And at that time, the feeling he has, after that, he knew he is noble. He was a king of kings, high birth. After that, there was no, he didn't need to pretend. And if others mocked him, "Hey, you're not the king," he just didn't care, because he was residing in his own glorious nature. Like that, here, once you understand, you feel, right now it's all intellectual knowledge. I'm not the mind, I'm something bigger than this. But once you realize that, it feels effortless, and that you're not going to keep saying, "Oh, I am that great Brahman." It's all gone. Okay, so that's what this shloka. So Shankaracharya gives a feeling for what it feels like to get liberated, and what happens to this knowledge after that. Okay, so the summary of the first five shlokas: our true nature is Aham Purna Brahmasmi. Purna means complete, full. I am not lacking. I am that full Brahman, that consciousness, because that is the real you. Everything else is inert. Mind is inert, body is inert. Mind seems like it has come alive, but that's because the consciousness is, it's like electricity. It just makes it glow, and we'll see a lot of examples. Because of this ignorance, ajnanam is ignorance, we feel aham apurna asmi, I am not complete. There's a lack of incompleteness. As apurnaha, as when we feel incomplete, we are called jiva. Jiva is this individual. That's this, we are just jivas, means a sentient being. Jiva means samsari. So when you feel you're incomplete, you're trapped in this cycle of birth, death, birth, death. If we have to attain our original glory, we have to remove the ignorance. This is done through knowledge. This is what Vedanta is about. Preparations to make the mind conducive for this knowledge is what we saw in the first shloka. Tapo bihikshina papanam shantanam vitaraginam. All this austerity, yoga, meditation, everything, shanta, to get the mind still, everything is prerequisite for this knowledge. Because only with a still mind, we can wield it the way we want, wield the mind the way we want. Okay? Now, parts 2 and 3 are the core. Shankaracharya is going to now step into high gear. He's going to go, I've told you, right? Shankaracharya's style is different. In other texts, they'll start with the basics, then next step, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Shankaracharya, bam, he goes straight to the point. That's his style. And the first thing we're going to talk about, the source of all the problems. What is the source of all the problems? Us identifying with something else. The you are the consciousness, but you start identifying with the body and the mind and say, "Oh, I'm looking I'm looking out of shape. I'm not smart. My mind is not smart anymore." But it is you. I'm not smart anymore, you say, but you are not the mind. So it is called adhyasaha. Adhyasaha means superimposition. The body gets superimposed on the consciousness. You are the consciousness, but because of the superimposition, you feel small. The attributes of the body seemingly superimposed on this consciousness and makes it look small, just like that mirror, concave and convex mirror we saw. And superimposition and the nature of the world. And then upadhis, these are conditioners. So here, the body is a upadhi. Similarly, mind is a upadhi. Upadhis are these limiting adjuncts. It makes you feel limited. That's what it's called, limiting adjuncts. We'll see that. Okay. So at the beginning of the study of Vedanta, stage one, you feel, I am the body. This is what you keep thinking. Then after studying, there's something called, there's a consciousness in my body. And then as you progress in the study, you will start realizing, okay, I'm the consciousness different from the body and the mind. This is how our perspective shifts. So Vedanta, by this knowledge, it helps you shift in the perspective. And where does yoga come about? Yoga is step zero. It helps you get a steady state of mind. All the asana practice that you do is so that you can sit. For meditation, it's only in meditation that you learn to still the mind. There, with that, you can wield the mind as you want to know your true nature. Okay, so this is what happens at the beginning of the study of Vedanta. So till this point, most people can easily come to consciousness different from the body. Even though you don't feel it, logically, you can arrive at this conclusion. And then comes the next giant leap of a step in the study of Vedanta. I am that consciousness in all the bodies. And finally comes a perplexing truth. And what is that truth? The perplexing truth is that I, the consciousness alone, am. And the world is like a mental projection, just like in a dream. Okay. This is like a perplexing truth for a lot of people. Okay. Now, so the part two is adhyasa, or the superimposition. We saw the body is superimposed on the consciousness, making it feel limited. So verses 6 through 9 talks about this problems caused by ajnanam, or ignorance. It is called false projection. The adhyasa, false projection. Okay. Now, I wanted to say one thing. I will be or Shankaracharya also interchanges the terms Brahman and Atma. So the word Brahman, this has nothing to do with the deity, the Chaturmukha Brahma, the God you see with 4 heads, the creator. No, that's Brahma. This is Brahman. Brahman refers to the all-pervading consciousness, right? Now, space, one of the analogies that's used in Vedanta is this: Brahman is compared to space. It will be, you will see why. Space is all pervading. So within the home, you call it inner space. Outside the home, outer space. Similarly, within the earth, inner space, and within the outside the earth, it's called outer stellar space, cosmic space. But space is one. Is it divided? No, there's no. The division is in our head. Space, I'm not talking about air. I'm just talking about space. You can say the air inside in the home is not fresh. No, there's a molecule particle. I'm just talking about physical space, the dimensions. Space is one. We kind of compartmentalize and we feel I'm in a small space. There's more space outside. Like that, the Atma, the consciousness, is one. In the context of the body, the term used is Atma. That's the study. In the context of the universe, the term used is Brahman. Okay? Is it clear so far? Yeah. Now we will see. So this ignorance, it creates a lot of problems. All our problems are due to ignorance. Okay, so one of the things you see a lot of terms. One thing which will be helpful is to like jot out some of the terms, and if you have questions at the end, you can ask. So we're going to cover a lot of very, very beautiful concepts. Okay, now, ignorance is called ajnanam. Jnana means knowledge, ajnana means ignorance. And this is known by different terms. It is called mula vidya, this ignorance which is, it is there eternally from time immemorial. When the creation started, in fact, we're going to see the creation started because of ignorance. So Vedanta, as I sent in this um, WhatsApp chat, Vedanta is considered the culmination of all knowledge. It's knowledge with a capital K, which means it talks about creation, the dissolution of the universe, and also everything in between, our lives, what our experience, everything is talked about here. So this ignorance is called mula vidya, root ignorance. Mula means root, mula bandha, like they say, root ignorance. Or there's another beautiful term, maya. Maya means that which deludes. So this ignorance is also called maya. And this ajnanam or maya has two powers. These powers are called vikshepa shaktihi, the power of projection. And it comes from rajoguna, which is, so there are three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. We'll see that a little later in detail. Just to understand, sattva is purity, rajas is activity, tamas is dullness. And this power of projection, that is false interpretation, thinking something to be something else, it comes from what's called vikshepa shakti, the power of projection. And then there is the revealing power, the covering power, that is called avarana shakti. So ignorance is supposed to have these two powers, power of projection and the power of veiling or delusion. The deluding power comes from tamoguna. So in yoga philosophy, they talk about all these gunas. So the gunas are what creates, we are composed of these three gunas, and this is fluctuating from time to time. And that's what creates different actions, our mind, how it behaves, it is from these gunas. These two are called adhyasaha, or false projection. False is avaranam, projection is vikshepa. So these two create all the problems. Okay, vikshepa literally means to throw out or expand. So vikshepa shakti is a result of this turbulence in the mind. Avarana shakti is delusion. Okay, now we will see a very important concept. Okay, the root cause of all problems is ignorance. And I told you in the beginning, before the earth, the universe got created, there was only one thing that was present, and that is the consciousness, Brahman or Maya. Now, when you talk of light, what do you also talk of? Anybody wants to answer? When you just talk of the word light, what comes to mind? Anybody wants to say anything?
The shadow or the dark?
Yes, when you talk of light, you immediately talk of darkness. So light and darkness go hand in hand. Okay, so like that, Brahman and Maya, consciousness and ignorance go hand in hand. Whenever you talk of consciousness or knowledge, you also have to talk of ignorance. So when light falls on a certain portion of the road, it looks bright. Where there is darkness, it's dark, looks black, right? Nothing is revealed here. Here, the surface of the road, everything is revealed. Here, it is not. So before creation, everything was in balance. So there was only Brahman. And then the gunas, because of the gunas, there's some imbalance is created, and Maya creates the first duality, where there was only light. Because of this ignorance, it creates duality. From singularity, there's duality. Okay, so far, is it understood, this portion? Yeah, okay. Now let's see what other problem. This is how systematically it is studied in Vedanta. What other problems does it cause? First, this twofold adhyasa that I said, vikshepa and avarana, projection and veiling So Maya, with its avarana shakti, the wheeling power, makes the one consciousness look like two. That is, it makes it looks like consciousness and the precursor to matter. So it is still, it is Maya, it's a precursor to matter. So it makes a one look like two. Then the creation of the world, it's called Prapancha Shrishti by Maya, that happens. So Vikshepa, the projecting power, creates this universe, including our own body and mind. Okay, it is because once there is delusion, you kind of start, it's just, this happens at the cosmic scale, just like it happens in our mind. Once you are ignorant of a topic, you create your own um, like imaginations about how it is. So the entire universe is created exactly how this is at a micro scale. What happens in our mind, at the cosmic scale, same thing happens. So this is called Vikshepa Shakti, that is, the entire universe is created. Then again, the wheeling power comes, it takes over and creates confusion at our level by further wheeling the consciousness. And instead of thinking, I, the consciousness, created this body, now we think, I, the body, got created. So, Avarana Shakti takes the matter, that is the body. We are not we are not the body, and it superimposes on the consciousness, the Atma. So therefore, the primary adhyasa is the Shrishti, that is the Vikshepa Shakti, and the confusion is the secondary adhyasa. And as long as there is ignorance continues, the confusion between I, the Atma, and the body, which is the Anatma, anything that is not conscious is the Anatma, will continue. So far, is it clear? Yeah? Okay. So this is how the problem starts. So to summarize, name of the power, the wheeling power or the Avarana Shakti, at the macro level, it makes the one look like two. Then just like how it happens in our mind, we create false notions because of the darkness. We go, oh, now it's look like two. Maybe there's more, and the entire universe springs up. It is due to the projection, Vikshepa Shakti. Macro, it's called the macro. It happens at the macro level, Samashti level. Samashti means macro. The creation of the universe happens, and then Avarana, again wheeling at the micro level, it creates confusion at our level. Okay. So in the Maya, we saw a very important term. The Bhagavad Gita also, it's introduced, it's talked about quite a bit. Bhagavan in the Bhagavad Gita says, Tribir Gunamayir Bhavair Ebi Sarpamidam Jagat Mohitam Nabhijanati Mamepya Param Avyayam. The entire world of human beings, deluded by these states of mind, brought about by the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, do not know me, who's beyond these gunas and changeless. So, by knowing me, it refers to this entire consciousness, this Brahman. And then there's another beautiful shloka. It says, Daivi Kyesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya Mame Vaye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. This divine Maya of mine is which consists of the three gunas, is very difficult indeed to cross. Only those who surrender to me cross over this Maya. So it talks about bhakti in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so this Vikshepa Shakti or the projecting power, there's another example. We'll see that example soon. This example is used to illustrate both the Vikshepa Shakti, projecting power, and the deluding power. First, the Avarana Shakti or the deluding power, when we see a rope in the darkness, we can mistake it to be a snake. So a rope which looks like this, in the darkness, we can mistake it to be a snake. And the deluding power hides the rope's true nature, and the projecting power projects a snake in its place. Because immediately the mind starts, that's how the mind is supposed to work, right? It starts becoming, fear comes, it starts developing worst case scenarios, creates its own imagination because of the darkness. If the knowledge was there, we wouldn't be creating all the stories in our mind. Okay, Santosh has a question.
Yeah, my question is, so this Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti that we describe over here, is that a concept or is there like an actual power called Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti that creates this dichotomy of projections?
Yeah. So um, it is, there is no power. It's, everything is just a mental play. So it's a concept. There is
Okay.
nothing like a physical power, like a nuclear energy, which is doing that. No. Okay.
Is there any like why does this actually doesn't exist, but this is used for explaining why we think we exist as a separation from Brahman.
Um, yes and no. So we'll cover it in the end. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. The quick answer is, all these are concepts, but it is true. It's a concept. Delusion is it's a concept. Projection is a concept in the mind. We are talking about the cosmic mind. Okay. So, all right. Coming back to the rope example. Once we create all the snake in our head, then comes fear, running, shouting, all based on unreal projection. So Avarana hides the Brahman nature, and Vikshepa, that is the projection, invents the world in its place. This is how creation is explained. Because of the delusion, the entire world is created in the place. Now we'll come to some very beautiful shlokas. Okay. These are all gems, literally. Samsaraswapnatulyo hi ragadveshadi sankulaha swakale satyavat bhati prabodhe satyasat bhavet. Samsara, which is a mix of, we could use the word samsara. Samsara is this entire cycle of births, deaths, and our life in between. We are going through like a hamster wheel. That's what we don't realize it, because we are in this, we are seeing this, we don't see the big picture. But when you take a step back and see our lives, this is what's happening. From like a from far away, you see, okay, we are born, we live, we die, take another birth, like that. It can be a human birth, another birth. Samsara, it's called samsara. It's a mix of attachments, aversions. Swamsara, swapna tulyo hi, verily like a dream. Swapna is dream. Swapna tulyo hi means, tulya means equal. So it is equal to a dream. And he means indeed, it's indeed like a dream, verily like a dream. Ragat Veshadi Sankulaha. Shankaracharya uses powerful words. Sankulaha means disorderly combination of intermingling, not even in a systematic way. It's all completely garbled. So it's a mix of attachments and aversions, totally garbled together. And that's how our life, if you see, it is aversion, attachment, aversion, attachment. This is samsara. Swakale satyavat bhati. Bhati means to shine. It shines like it is real. Swakale means in its own time. That is, it shines like it is real as long as it continues. Then prabodhe satya sat bhavet. But prabodhe means upon awakening. So awakening means physically awakening from sleep, or it can mean enlightened. They say the Buddha was awakened, means enlightened. So when one is awakened, wakes up, when true wisdom dawns, from the real, this becomes unreal. Okay, so we'll see more what it has. Prabodhe means upon awakening. Sat asad bhavet. From real, it becomes unreal. So this is the thing. Um, in fact, a lot of the Western philosophers, thinkers, writers, they were heavily influenced by Vedanta, because only in Vedanta you find a big picture aspect of the entire creation life, which is not self-contradicting. So there's no God or anything. It's just consciousness. There's no God. You say, oh, you have to do all these things if you want to go to heaven. Nothing like that. So samsara swapna tulyobi, our existence in the world is like a dream. Okay. So there are characters in a dream created by the mind. Another example that is I'll come to the other example. So the mind creates characters in the dream. Then you feature in the dream also, and you think that all this is happening and the dream is real. You're very serious. So there are different levels of experience. So dream is one level of experience, and Vedanta makes the great claim that even our awakened life, the awakened life, awake state, Jagrat Avastha, that is also a different order of reality. It is not the absolute reality. This is what it says. The Brahman out of Maya Shakti creates a universe with its various life forms. The Jiva, this is us, one particular life form, thinks it is suffering or experiencing pleasure, not knowing that it is a fictitious entity, as are all the other life forms and inert objects interacting with. But in the dream, everything becomes real, and you have to follow. So the dream rules, dream pain, dream karma, everything is there. But when you wake up, it's all gone. So here, a concept is introduced. It's a very important concept. It's called mithya. Mithya means something that seems real as long as it's experienced, like a dream. Satyavat bhati, as though real. Satyavat means as though real. Bhati, it shines. It's projected. Everything seems very in a dream. Everything, it's just grips us. Everything seems real as long as it's experienced. But in reality, it's not. You can't deny a dream. Dream has created a lot of problems, but is it real? No, it's not real. Compared to a waking life, it is not real. But it creates problems. It ruins your sleep. It makes us heart palpitate. All that is true. This is called mithya. And Vedanta makes the claim that the reality that we are seeing, it is also an empirical reality. Once you wake up to that, you will still perform, transact with the world, but you will live freely. Another example that I wanted to tell you is there's this, all the world's a stage, and all the um, people are players, right? This was influenced by Vedanta. This uh, th- thought, this statement. We'll see why. When you're transacting with the world, you have to do certain things, right? But you know that you're not there. So it's like all the uh, characters in a play. They're very serious. They're crying and doing all that. But they know that they're not the character they're playing. But they have to play to earn their living or to make the play successful. Like that, our lives are exactly like that. An enlightened person will still carry about chopping wood. That's why there's a Zen saying, what happens after enlightenment? Chop wood, carry water, same thing happens. But you will live with a lot more freedom. So there are three levels of reality. First level is Paramarthika Satyam, that is the absolute reality. Then Vyavaharika Satyam, transactional or empirical reality, that's our waking state. Then there's something called Pratibhasika Satyam, illusory or apparent reality. This can be a dream, a mirage, or the rope snake example. Mirage doesn't exist, but you go towards it thinking there's a lot of water. So these are all Pratibhasika Satyam. These three levels are not three separate worlds, but three perspectives on one reality depending on the level of truth and permanence they hold. Okay, now we only covered 2 shlokas in the class. I wanted to cover until 14th. Let's see how it goes. Various levels of misidentification. So shloka 7, 8 talk about superimposition of the universe on this consciousness, Brahman, and vice versa. Misidentification at the macro or the cosmic level. And shloka 9, verse 9, will talk about superimposition of the body and mind on the Atma and vice versa. Misidentification at the micro level. Tavat satyam jagat bhati shuktikarajatam yata yavan ajnayate brahma sarpadishtanam Tavat satyam jagat bhati. As long as one does not realize that Brahman is the non-dual, that is, there's only Brahman, nothing else in the universe. And what kind of a thing? It is the basis, sarva adhishtanam avyayam, basis for everything in the universe. As long as one does not realize that the Brahman is a non-dual basis for everything in the universe, yavat, till then, the world shines like a illusion, like the silver in the mother of pearl. Yavat Nyayate Yavan na Nyayate Brahma, as long as one does not realize that Brahman, then Shuktika Rajatam Yata. Shuktika means the shell, and Rajatam means silver. So the shell of this mother of pearl is shining. So Rajatam means silver, like silver. Shuktika Rajatam Yata, shining like the world shines, like it is real. So the world appears real like the illusion of silver in the mother of pearl. This looks like silver, but it is not silver. So that is how it is when somebody has seen, understood that Brahman, then the world is there, but you don't get trapped into all this drama that's happening. You will realize, so this is just a drama. That is the profound truth. Now so this superimposition, it can be mutual. So you can superimpose my nature onto the body, or the body's nature onto me. Me means the consciousness. So it is called anonya adhyasaha, mutual superimposition, transference of my reality onto the world and vice versa. Okay, this transference is one of them is true. So there's the only reality is the consciousness we saw previously. Because some parts were dark, it projects things. So my reality is superimposed on the world, and then what happens? The world's reality is superimposed on me. Here, world refers to anything but me, like the body's reality is superimposed. We start thinking, I am the body. Okay, so this is called mutual superimposition. This transference is only due to the illusion and not due to the projection. So projection is not a big problem. As long as you know all these things exist, you can still go about and live life and not get worried. It is the wheeling power, which is the more bigger power, more dangerous power, that creates all the problems for us. Once you understand the world as mithya, which is apparently true, but in reality, higher order of reality, it's not true, and not as satyam. Satyam means absolute reality. The world is as good as gone. So your samsara is removed, which means no more rebirths. So this is called a jivan mukta, one who has attained liberation while living. The Buddha said, I am liberated. This is my last birth. No more births for me. And you can continue to live along with this projected things in the universe till our prarabdha karma is exhausted. So this wheeling shakti is gone. Ajnanam is sorted out. It's like watching a movie. As long as you don't get engrossed in the movie, you don't put yourself through the pain and the pleasure. So it's called anonya adhyasa. Anonya means anya, anya. Anya means other, other, or it's mutual, one another. Adhyasa is superposition. Okay. Upadhane khiladhare jaganti parameshware sargastiti layantyanti bhutbudhani vabarini. Again, I told you Shankaracharya's style is different. He's coming from the top, just like a magnificent, utterly perplexing truths. Is instead of stepping from the small and building it up, he's just coming from the top. Look at this thing, like bubbles in the water. Budbuda niva varini. Varini is water. Budbuda means bubbles, like bubbles in the water or in the ocean. The worlds rise, exist, and dissolve in the Supreme Self, which is the material cause and basis for everything. Upadanam means the material cause. Upadane, in that material cause. Akhila adare. Akhila adare means basis for everything. Akhila means everything. Adaram means basis. Upad, in that material cause, which is the basis for everything, Jaganti Parameshware, in that that supreme self, Jaganti means the worlds, Parameshware, in that supreme self, Sarga, Sthiti, Laya, Yanti. So Sarga is creation, Sthiti is sustenance, Laya is dissolution, Ayanti, they come into being through then creations, existence, and then dissolution, like bubbles in the water. So bubble comes, then stays for some time, bubble bursts. So this entire thing is just like this, and the cycle continues. We think the universe is created some time back, Big Bang happened, and then at some point it'll collapse. But it's been cycles like this from time immemorial. Okay, the disappearance of the whole world. Now, once you realize that you are that self, it's like a disappearance of a bubble to me. So, in the previous verse, Shankaracharya used Sarva Adhishtanam, which means basis for everything. Here, Shankaracharya is conveying the same meaning through different words. Okay. So the worlds, the simile is worlds rise, exist, and dissolve like bubbles in water. Bubbles are not separate from water. Similarly, the world is not separate from Brahman. Here, the analogy is the ocean or the water. It is like Brahman. All these bubbles, the different things that we see, it is because of this Maya. Maya created. Brahman or the Parameshwara is not a witness or a remote deity. It is a very fabric of existence, all that we perceive. So some people think of God as different as, so here it is Brahman, which is the ultimate consciousness, which is the ultimate thing. It is the fabric of everything, all that we perceive. Time, space, matter, mind arises within the Brahman, not apart from it. The multiplicity of forms is like froth or bubbles in an ocean, ephemeral and dependent, and but non-different in substance. Okay, so this verse helps shift the student's perspective from I am in the world to the world is in me, because you are part of that consciousness. Another example that's given in Vedanta, it's like a spider. The spider, it from its own body, it produces the thread, and then it takes it back also. When a spider is coming down, you see, it puts out the thread and comes down, and if it wants to move up, it takes it in. So it is called abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. Same cause is instrumental and material. Okay. So when you realize you're that Brahman, it looks like the worlds come, exist, and dissolve like bubbles in the water. The words, okay, all right, we've seen that. Okay, now um, this term is called Vyakti Adhyasaha. Vyaktam means manifested. All kinds of individual animals, birds, everything. Vyakti Adhyasaha hence superposition of that Brahman or Atma on the inert body and mind to make it look alive. So the Sthula Shariram, the gross body, that's the physical body. The Sukshma Shariram, the subtle body, which we've seen, are non-sentients because it is, and it's non-sentient, but they look sentient because of the consciousness. Okay, so 6 to 8 talked about Brahman. Let's see, this is 8. Yeah, now we will talk about the Jiva, the individual. So it talked about all the worlds, at the cosmic level, it was talked about. Now we will talk about at our individual level. So we'll see the individual. Satchidatmanyusyute nitye Vishnu prakalpitaah vyaktayo vividha sarvaah hatake katakadivat. Satchit Atmani, that is this Atma, it is called Sat Chit Atma. Sat means existence. Chit means consciousness. So Sat Chit Atma. And what kind of Atma it is? It is Anusyutam. It is continuous. It's there everywhere, all pervading, without a break. Nusyutam means without a break. And in that self, which is continuous existence consciousness, which is eternal, Nityam, and which is Vishnu. Vishnu is also the deity, God. Vishnu means that which is all pervading substratum. Prakalpita, everything, the entire world is projected. What kind of world? Vyaktayo vividaha, all the manifested things. Vivida means everything that's manifested is actually projected on this substrate. And just like in a movie theater, the screen, onto that everything is projected like that. All these are projected, just as different ornaments are made out of the same gold. So here is a very important concept in Vedanta. It is called Nama Rupa. All these, so you have different, let's say, different ornaments. So you have bangle, chain, maybe have earrings, all that, right? Vedanta says these are just name forms. The only truth in all that is gold. Do you agree with that? We are just giving all these names. We are getting enamored. Oh, I like this bangle. No, I like the earring. I like the chain. Do you agree with that? We are creating all these things in our head. There's only one thing there, that is gold. This is our mind playing all these tricks, saying, I like this, I don't like that, this is my favorite, that somebody says this is my favorite. So like that, this entire thing, the world, all these, there's only Brahman. All these things are name forms from this creation. This is a profound truth of Vedanta. Another example, this Brahman, it's like the screen. You keep playing all these images, movie theater, the images get projected. You start thinking, this person, that person, this is my favorite, but there is only the screen. Like that, the Brahman is the substratum. Our mind creates all these things and gets pulled into that. So very profound truth to reflect on. Okay, so now we will step into what are called upadhis. That upadhi means that which gives attributes to something else. For example, there's a red flower and there's a clear crystal. The red flower is called the upadi because it gives characteristics to something. And that which receives the characteristic is called a upahitam. Okay, I'll take a few minutes more and then I'll stop. The body is called the upadi, and I, the self, is called the upahitam because I receive the characteristic of the body and I feel very small. Okay, now the shloka goes as Yata kasho rishikeshaha nano bhadigato vibhuhu tat vedat bhinnavat bhati tanna kevalo bhavet. Just like the all-pervading space, the Lord also appears to be diverse on account of their association with various conditionings. So we saw the space example, right? So space is one, but it looks divided. This is my space, this is your space. We create artificial divisions and saying, this is my space. No, space is just one continuous thing. There's no divisions to space. I'm not talking about air. There's no divisions to space. Yata akashaha hrishikesha. Yes, akashaha means space. Just as the space, so is it with this omnipresent Lord. Nana upadi gataha vibhuhu, all pervading, the associated with various conditionings. They look different. The Lord also appears to be diverse on account of their association with various conditionings. Similar as we saw here, the crystal looks red when placed next to a red flower. Similarly, the water in a glass cup, which is orange, looks orange, but the water is colorless. Same when you, we're going to see another example where when you add some uh, um, flavor to the water and drink it, the water seems sweet. Another, when you put salt, it feels salty. So, but the it is the water is still tasteless. It is the something that you added makes it look different. So, nana upadigataha vibhuhu. This the Lord also appears diverse on account of their association with various conditionings. So, what is said here is you are that infinite consciousness and you look small because of the body, the upadi of the body. And upon the destruction of these limiting agents, just like the space, the Lord also is revealed. So, tanna she kevala bhavet, but when these are destroyed, it becomes one, that one consciousness. Hrishikesha refers to the Lord of the senses, and usually Bhagavan Krishna is called Hrishikesha. The word Hru means to loot away. So, what do the senses loot? Through the senses are supposed to loot away our mind. That's why it's called the Lord of the senses. Hrishika Isha. Okay. So space, there's only one space. But see, look at it. It looks like different. Outside it's black, inside it's all the blue, everything. So space, which is one but appears as many, so too with the all-sustaining Lord. Okay. And the space is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita also quite a bit. Just as the mighty wind that goes everywhere exists in space, so also understand all beings exist in me. Bhagavan, this and the Bhagavad Gita. As the all-pervading space is not tainted because of the subtlety, the Atma present everywhere in the body is not tainted. But we think we are sinners, poor, everything, because the body and the mind's characteristics are imposed on us. And I'll go one more and I'll stop here. Nanopādivashādeva jati varnashramadayah atmanyaropitasto ye rasavarnadhibhedavat. only because of the association with the different conditionings such as birth, caste, position are superimposed on the Atma, just as differences in flavor, color are superimposed on the water. Okay, so what it says here is Atma is just water is tasteless, but and it is colorless. But you put different things. It looks colored. It looks to have a different taste, and it's kind of deluding us. Now we will flavored water. It seems as though this water is tasty. That water is a different color. No, the water is, because it's mixed with that color and everything it gives, has that appearance. But water, you can still extract the water from that, right? So um, only because of the association, nana upadi vashat, because of the grip of all these upadis. Upadis are the things that transfer the properties to me. Jati, and what are these properties? Jati, birth, varna. In India, they had the caste, and the jati, varna, ashrayam. That is the position in your life. You can be a great teacher or whatever, king. They are superimposed on the atma. Okay, atmani aropitaha, or aropitaha means they're superimposed, just like thoye. Thoye means water. Rasa, varna, adi, bhedavati. Differences. Bhedam means difference. In rasam is taste. Varna is color. Okay, so that is the um, shloka. Shankaracharya now will enumerate the various upadis in the context of the Atma in the next 3 shlokas. The gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. I was planning to do this, our 3 bodies today, but we kind of ran out of time. So I will do that in the next class. I'll stop the recording here.